Hello kids, and welcome to our online module of creating an effective classroom environment. Hopefully you're sitting somewhere nice and cozy and warm and away from the snow. I'm going to give a little bit of a review, and then I'm going to forge ahead to one or two concepts I want you to remember from the very first part of this chapter. We'll do an activity and it will be over with almost painless. So you'll see that the arrows indicate in this slide what we've done so far. We've talked a lot about what motivates students, what different levels of cognitive or social development they might be in, and how that might influence their learning. And we've also talked about that centerpiece a little bit, about the characteristics of students. But what we haven't really gotten to yet is the classroom environment and how that affects learning, and also assessment and how that affects learning. So I'm going to start with classroom environment today. We'll finish the semester with assessment, and I think you'll find that this stuff might be more interesting than you thought it was. Hope so. So your chapter starts off with what is sadly a very common scenario, which is a case study with Miss Cornell, who plans for everything. She has got her curriculum mapped out. I think she teaches 7th grade math. It's been a while since I read the chapter. But what she finds that she hasn't planned for are behaviors. She's done all the lesson planning like we've done so far in class, right? But we also plan for this environment that we're creating. And environments create specific behaviors, and students come with us with their own stuff. So we're going to talk about some of the ways that the environment matters today. During this chapter, you're going to see several theoretical frameworks in play. Remember that a theory is simply an explanation for a behavior, right? So we're going to work with a little behaviorism. Remember that that is reinforcers, things that make increase behaviors, and punishers, things that decrease behaviors. We're going to draw upon social cognitive theory, which is the way in which we watch other people, other learners, and we learn vicariously through the ways that other learners get reinforced or punished. We're also going to fold in some information processing theory, and that has to do with how we maintain attention in our classroom environment so that we can get stuff into working memory and on into that long-term storage. We're going to talk about constructivism and how we build knowledge together and individually in the specific space that is our classrooms. And we'll be folding in sociocultural theory, which is how our backgrounds, our cultures, our races structure what we already know and influence what we learn and how we learn it. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce you to this thing called classroom climate. And I'm pretty sure if I asked you what that is, you could make a pretty good guess. But here's the definition. And it is the psychological environment of a classroom. In order to get a feel for this, you just have to ask yourself this question: how do you feel in that environment? Now notice that you can have a very different classroom environment in the same room. So the room is only one facet, but you might have, say, 3 classes in the same room, but feel very differently in those classes. And so what I want you to ask yourselves right now, you might even end up pausing the video to write this down because it will help you think. What do you think those other factors are? If it's not just the room itself, what variables are in play when we're talking about classroom management? I'm going to back up. When we talk about classroom climate, or the way you feel in a space, in a classroom or learning environment. So in order to look at an example of classroom climate before you have to supply your own, surprise, that's what you're doing at the end of this module. I've supplied this video right under mine in the module that I'd like you to click on and watch. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but what I'd like you to pay attention to is not so much the strategies she's using, and by the way, you'll notice she uses some of the cueing. that some of you used in your lessons, instead of looking at the methods, try to pay attention to classroom climate this time. Now, you can't really crawl into these youngsters' heads and say, well, how do you feel about that? But I think you can get a sense of what that is. And I'd like you to do 3 things as you watch it. See if you can label the climate as you see it. See if you can identify what is contributing to that classroom climate. And you may even want to evaluate whether or not you think that is effective or conducive to learning. So, another little way that you can take a look at a classroom with a specific eye to classroom climate. Now, by the end of this module, and basically that's all I want you to focus on right now, are the ingredients that make up a classroom climate. So this is what I'll be asking you to discuss, and you'll also see this in the discussion area instructions. I'd like you to describe a specific classroom climate that's memorable for you. Your example can be from K-12, it can be from college if you like, but it just has to stand out in some way. And I'd like you to look at those 3 bulleted items there at the bottom. What words describe that climate? What descriptors would you use? What factors, what do you think the ingredients might be? See if you can identify some of the things that are creating that feeling or classroom climate. And the last thing, think about, was that classroom climate conducive to learning, to focusing attention, to many things. I'm going to let you think about what those variables are. Now, if you're feeling saucy, and you'll see this in the notes too, frame this post as if we're walking right through the school with you. So if you want to start off by saying, it's 7th grade, I'm walking down the hall, the lockers are blue, and I hang a left into Mr. Olson's 7th grade math class. This is what I see, this is what I hear, this is where I sit, this is what people say, this is how I feel. If you want to frame it that way, I think it makes it more fun because we sort of get a step into that climate with you before you think about whether or not that climate was conducive to your learning. So basically, that's all you do. You post that, you read at least 10 of your peers, yes, I count them, and post a response to 2 people, either empathizing or just being human or relating or connecting to those people. So I'm glad we have a snow day today. I think it will be fun to see your comments online. I'm looking forward to your posts and also to your responses to each other. And I will see you Monday.